When I consider my collection of presentations, one of my favorite ones to give is just called Why. W-H-Y. Why? It's one of those questions that when you stop and think about it, a 5 to 7-year-old will ask 1,000,000 times a day. Why is the sky blue? Why is the ocean deep? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? To a point of aggravation for whoever has to listen. But unfortunately, as we age, get more mature, if you will, and more intelligent, we don't ask why anymore. And it's such an important question. When I think of why, I start thinking of the stories that are involved with why in process. And this is really the heart of it, is why do we have meetings on Monday morning? Why do they last 2 hours? Why do we get this report? Why does this happen? And to be able to ask it just open-mindedly. Why is one of those basic little questions that if you go back to the old stories, one of my favorite stories is the Christmas ham story. The Christmas ham story is this story of the mother was preparing a ham for Christmas, and she cut off both ends and put it in this pan, and the little girl said, "Mom, why do you cut the ends off the ham?" "Oh, well, the reason we do that is so that the flavor can, I don't know. Grandma taught me to do that. You'd have to go ask Grandma." She goes in the other room to Grandma and says, "Grandma, I just asked Mommy, why do we cut the ends off the ham?" And she said, "So the flavor will go in and do." Grandma says, "No, it's so the heat can be, I don't know. Great-grandma taught me to do that." She went to great-grandma and says, "I asked Mom and I asked Grandma, why do we cut the ends off the hams for Christmas when we put it in the oven?" She goes, "Because my pan was only this big." There's always a reason sometimes for our processes, but we don't investigate deep enough. I think about a company that I worked with in Chicago. It was a large banking company. And in this bank, one of the things that we were doing was process analysis. It was Continental Bank. And process analysis, we want to know when something goes from A to B, what takes place. And in this particular case, on the 4th floor, a woman was working with a rack on wheels of about a 5-foot by 7-foot rack that probably stood 4 feet high. Her job was to collect all the checks that came in for that day in certain account numbers, take a rubber band that was about that wide, wrap it around the stack of checks, and put them on the rack. And there was maybe 4 to 5 hours of work. She'd fill up the whole rack, and I said, "What happens to these now? Where do the checks go?" 7th floor. I said, "What do they do with them?" "I don't know." So I thought, I'm going to follow the checks and ask why. So we go on the elevator, got this rack of thousands of checks with rubber bands around them. We go up to the 7th floor. They rolled this rack off. Immediately when it was rolled off, a woman stood there with a pair of scissors, snipping every rubber band on those packages. That's the kind of, in the processes, that's the kind of thing that can take place. And do we have that in our business? Bet you do. This is exactly the kind of thing that if you can identify it, if you can get your people to understand that why is not accusatory, it doesn't put anybody on the spot, it's just a 7-year-old kid asking innocently why, you're going to be absolutely shocked at the effect and possibly the results.